Did you have many girlfriends through your adolescence?
Not a lot. I did. My first girlfriend, who I really loved a lot, was Tatum O'Neal.
And was it a typically romantic adolescent love affair?
Yeah, it was. But I don't think I was ready for some of the things she was talking about. I was pretty naive, I'm not joking. I remember her telling me to come over to her house. They have a Beverly Hills house too. And what she's gonna do to me when I come. You know,
Well, what did she say?
all the sexual stuff. So I'm scared to death.
So she rings you and says, Michael, come to my house. I'm going to make love to you.
Yeah,
And you're really scared.
I'm scared. Scared because I've never done anything like that. I came over there trying to be Mr. Big Shot and brave. I remember she cut off all the lights in her bedroom, opened the curtains. You can see the whole skyline of the city over the cliff. It was beautiful. And she told me to go over and lie on the bed, and I did. I laid on the bed. And she slowly walked over, and she touched the button of my shirt to open it.
Michael Jackson and Tatum O'Neal first met at a party Paul McCartney hosted aboard the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California in 1975. At the time, Michael was 17 and Tatum was 12. Both child stars, Tatum was already the youngest person ever to receive an Academy Award at age 10 for acting with her father, Ryan O'Neal, in the critically acclaimed Paper Moon. As a result, Tatum's childhood was cut short, and her overnight fame meant everywhere she went, she was the center of attention, often in very adult spaces. An experience Michael could empathize with, as well as the pressures of child stardom. However, their unspoken connection didn't develop in any kind of romance until 2 years later when Michael spotted Tatum with her father at the nightclub On the Rocks on Los Angeles Sunset Strip. Michael remembered, quote, "When we met, I was sitting at this table and all of a sudden I felt this soft hand reach over and grab mine. It was Tatum. This probably wouldn't mean a lot to other people, but it was serious stuff to me. She touched me." The subtle, tender exchange was refreshing for a teenage Michael Jackson, whose only experience of female attention up until that point were the hordes of screaming fans that would attend his shows and the presence of thrill-seeking groupies backstage. Quote, "In the past, girls had always touched me on tour, grabbing at me and screaming behind a wall of security guards. But this was different. This was one-on-one, and that's always the best." The two exchanged phone numbers, and the next day, Tatum invited Michael to join her at the Playboy Mansion, where Hugh Hefner was planning a private screening of Roots. However, Tatum got bored, and they decided to go outside alone and get into the jacuzzi. Quote, "We weren't naked, as people have said. We both had on bathing suits, just enjoying ourselves. And that's it," Michael recounted. Tatum's impression of Michael at this time was, quote, "He seemed very sheltered and fearful and lonely. Not at all what you'd expect a world-renowned performer to be." In contrast to Michael, Tatum's self-described chaotic upbringing meant she didn't have the safety and protection of her family around. She grew up as fast as a fixture on the Hollywood scene, and her confidence and sense of freedom likely drew Michael in during a time he was looking to branch out of the small world his parents permitted him and his siblings to inhabit. Michael telling an interviewer at the time, quote, "Tatum wants to take me camping. I've never done any of those things," he said wistfully. Quote, "I've been knowing this business all my life, so there's no way of quitting, but I'm ready for a nice long vacation." Aside from opening Michael's eyes to a life full of simple pleasures outside of show business, Tatum remembers how innocent and vulnerable the former child prodigy was. Quote, "He was a huge star, but it seemed he barely even dated and knew little about life," Tatum recounted. Quote, "Michael used to come to my house when I was living with my dad, and I remember him being so shy. He'd never been in a girl's bedroom and wouldn't even sit on my bed." For Michael, his feeling towards Tatum were genuine, as he professed. Quote, "I fell in love with her, and she with me, and we were very close for a long time. I guess you'd have to say she was my first love, after Diana." However, the young love affair would abruptly end after Michael asked Tatum to go with him to the premiere of his first movie, The Wiz, in the fall of 1978. According to Tatum, her manager, Sue Mengers, told her in no uncertain terms, quote, "You can't go to a premiere with a..." Upset over her manager's initial response, Tatum went to her father and he apparently told her to go if she wanted to. Surprisingly for Tatum, Michael was her only teenage boyfriend that her movie star father ever approved of, who at the time was getting close to Michael's Motown pal Diana Ross as they were preparing to star in the original ill-fated version of The Bodyguard. Although on the surface it was just a date, for Hollywood it was in fact a public declaration that the two were now an item, and the interracial aspect, as well as their age differences, were a real concern. Fearing backlash that could negatively affect her career, Tatum followed her manager's advice by turning the invitation down without giving Michael any kind of explanation. This rejection hurt Michael deeply, who wasn't sure exactly why she let him down, but feared rightfully so it was racially motivated. Because essentially she didn't want to be seen in public with him, and that Tatum had chosen her career and public image over the genuine connection he felt they shared. As a result of this, Michael recoiled back into himself, and the two childhood stars stopped speaking. O'Neill, later reflecting, quote, "I lost touch with him because of it, but I love him. He's one of the nicest, most innocent people I've ever met. I love she's out of my life because I think it describes our friendship at that time." Despite his heartbreak, this didn't stop Michael from using their association for publicity purposes. Having made his way into the movies with a big breakthrough role, Michael's connection to an Oscar winner and her big-time movie star father would surely benefit him in his new pursuit. Jackson telling Jet magazine, quote, "Tatum helped me with advice on how to stay cool through it all. She and her dad have been just great for me." Apart from helping Jackson forge a new path in the movie business, Michael's relationship with O'Neill also helped stem other untoward rumors about the artist and helped fuel public intrigue in his personal life. Michael telling Ebony magazine in 1979, quote, "Like most of the people you may see me out with, like Tatum and Janelle, they're kind of on and off. They're friends and I talk to them. I don't know how to describe it, really." Despite his various romances being played out in the press, Michael wasn't ready for anything serious and had no intention of getting married young, like many of his brothers. The superstar was far too focused on his career and determined to break new ground to give any of himself to some girl. However, Michael and Tatum would later reconnect for a final night of fun when they arranged to go together to a Kool and the Gang concert in 1982. At first glance, in an image the actress later shared, you might not recognize the then 24-year-old Michael Jackson. With his features obscured by a huge afro, bushy beard, and darkened skin. His trademark eyes are the viewer's only giveaway. Tatum recalled, quote, "He got a special effects guy to help. We had an amazing night. No one recognized us, but we did get some strange looks as he appeared so much older than me." Although the former sweethearts enjoyed reconnecting with one another for old time's sake, Jackson soon became infatuated with another former child star, Brooke Shields. And as Michael's music stardom rocketed out of the stratosphere, Tatum dedicated herself to family life after marrying tennis star John McEnroe. And the two former child stars never crossed paths again. However, in private conversations, Michael never forgot about Tatum, or Tate, as he called her. Quote, "I want to be with someone. I want to know what a relationship is all about before I die. I never had. I mean, I've been with Tate. I've been, well, not with. I've been with Tate," Michael said. Years later, Michael and Tatum's short-lived romance resurfaced in the press when the pop superstar spoke candidly to reporter Martin Basher about their most intimate moments together in an interview that featured in the 2003 documentary Living with Michael Jackson. The superstar recounting, quote, "I remember her telling me to come over to her house in Beverly Hills and what she's going to do to me. All the sexual stuff. So, I'm scared to death. Scared because I'd never done anything like that." Michael then claimed that while at Tatum's watching television with her and her father, Tatum grabbed Michael's hand and led him into the bedroom. With her dad in the other room, Michael and Tatum shared a small, closed-mouth kiss, and afterwards, Michael claimed Tatum attempted to unbutton his shirt. Quote, "She told me to lie in the bed, and I did. She slowly walked over and she touched the button on my shirt to open it. I took my hands and I wouldn't let them down, and she just walked away. She knew I was too shy for it." However, when confronted with Michael's allegations, Tatum had a very different recollection of events, claiming that Jackson greatly embellished what was essentially a very innocent relationship. Quote, "I am just as shocked as everyone else from what I saw last night. He has a very vivid imagination. Michael did come over to my house when my father was home, but there was no way I was capable of being as mature or as sophisticated as he claimed I was. Flat out denying any suggestion that the actress attempted to seduce Michael as a young teen. O'Neill later elaborating, quote, "At the time of the supposed seduction, I was barely pubescent, and what I'd seen of sex so far was unappealing and gross. It may have been Michael's fantasy that I'd seduce him, and it's a little sad that he cast himself as failing, even in his dream. But it just didn't happen." Despite Tatum O'Neill's claims that their teenage romance was much more innocent than what the King of Pop had publicly revealed, Michael spoke about the sexual side of their relationship once again, this time in an interview with Rabbi Shmuley. Quote, "She wanted to do everything, and I didn't want to have sex at all because there were a lot of values associated with being a Jehovah's Witness. When I held Tatum's hand, it was just magic. Better than anything. Kissing her, anything. There were fireworks going on. It was all I needed. But that means nothing to kids today. She grew up too fast. She wasn't into innocence." In Tatum O'Neill's 2005 memoir, A Paper Life, the former child star bravely shed light on the dysfunctions of her teen years that led her down a traumatic path. This included taking Quaaludes at 11, smoking marijuana at 12, using cocaine at 13, and losing her virginity before even meeting Michael. Tatum stated that as a young teen and without any parental supervision, she became sexually promiscuous and encouraged into sexual activity she was developmentally far too young to process. In her book, she also revealed her memories of Michael and their young romance. Quote, "We started talking every day, long, drawn-out conversations. His usual subject was sex. At 12, I didn't have much to say about sex. All I knew was that it went on pretty steadily in my father's room next to mine. But Michael was intensely curious about anything, everything sexual, though in an incredibly sweet and innocent way. When it came down to their own intimate moments together, Tatum doesn't remember any fireworks. Quote, "He sat on the bed and we kissed very briefly, but it was all very awkward. For all my passionate crushes on people like Dustin Hoffman, I was just 12 and not at all ready for a real-life encounter. So I said, I can't. Michael, who was sweating profusely, seemed as intimidated as I was. He jumped up nervously and said, gotta go." Released in the aftermath of Michael Jackson's 2005 trial and the media's character assassination that came with it, some Jackson fans criticized Tatum's portrayal of her former friend, depicting Michael as somewhat of a sexually charged predator who would attempt to groom prepubescent girls. This, not helped by O'Neill claiming she was 12 while the two dated, when she was in fact 14 or 15 years old. On June 25, 2009, the world lost two icons of entertainment, and Tatum O'Neall lost two significant connections in her life. Her former sweetheart, Michael Jackson, and the love of her father's life, Farrah Fawcett. Quote, "First of all, how sad to lose two fucking icons. Secondly, it sort of canceled Farrah out a little bit because she didn't get the moment that I think she deserved and could have had. At the same time, this is life, man. This isn't about who's going to get the better farewell." Since his death, although Tatum may choose to occasionally celebrate and share fond memories of Michael in interviews and on her social media platforms, their association is also wrapped up in so much trauma she experienced during those years. When asked about the call for his cancellation after the release of Leaving Neverland, a documentary that blew wide open allegations made against Michael Jackson of child abuse, Tatum stood by his alleged victims. Although the Oscar winner professed she never witnessed anything from Michael that would suggest that the claims made against him were true, she didn't doubt the documentary because of her personal experience of Hollywood, including within her own family, that has nothing to do with Michael. Outwardly, it appears that both child stars' views of sex were severely affected growing up under the spotlight, but in different ways. Whereas Tatum O'Neall from a young age associated sex as a way to garner attention, love, and validation, in part due to what she witnessed from her father's escapades, Michael's deep religious and moral influences conflicted with that of showbiz's sex-saturated backstage culture, and his father's promiscuous exploits made Michael recoil at the thought of meaningless sex. Michael and Tatum came together for a brief period at least, and connected through their unique understanding of growing up within the pressures of child superstardom and the adult responsibilities that came with it. A bond far greater and holding more meaning than anything physical they may have shared. Thanks for watching The Detail. If you enjoyed this video, then check out our other videos chronicling the friendships, relationships, and rivalries of Michael Jackson. We'll see you next time.